Chapter 24. Miss Emma thought we should all visit Jefferson together as often as we could. I wasn't crazy about the idea of being at the courthouse at the same time as the minister, but one look from my aunt and I decided I would go along at least once. Leaving Irene Cole and Odessa Freeman in charge of classes, I drove to Bayonne with a bag of pecans and peanuts. I remembered my promise to Jefferson, so I dropped by the drugstore for a notebook and a pencil. It was a little after 2 when I got to the courthouse. The minister, Miss Emma, and my aunt were waiting for me outside. They stood by the minister's car near the statue of the Confederate soldier and the 3 flags. The flags hung limp beneath the overcast sky. The minister and my aunt looked at me, and both seemed angry, as if I had kept them waiting deliberately. I had not, of course. If I had not stopped for the notebook and pencil, I probably would have arrived before they did. But I did not explain this to them. Miss Emma did not feel the same as they did, and that was all that mattered. Both she and my aunt carried food baskets covered with dish towels. As I approached them, Miss Emma pushed herself away from the car and started heavily toward the entrance of the courthouse. My aunt and the minister walked behind her, and I followed. Paul was not there. The chief deputy, after searching the food and us, led us out of the office into the corridor. He walked several paces ahead of us, as if we were not with him. When we came to the restroom marked white men, he went inside. We waited for him along the wall. 5 minutes later, he came out with another white man. They stood there talking for a minute or two before he continued along the corridor. We went up the steps and into the day room, and without a word, he opened the door and left us. Miss Emma and my aunt spread out a tablecloth on the table, and then they placed a pan and a spoon and a paper napkin in 5 places. After they had set up everything, they and the minister sat down, but I remained standing. The first thing you heard were the chains around his ankles. Then Jefferson entered the room through the rear door, followed by the deputy. Jefferson wore the same brown wool shirt he'd had on a couple of days before. He had on a pair of faded denims and brogans with no laces. He was dragging his feet to keep the shoes on. "Here he is," the deputy said. "See y'all at 3. "Paul's not here today?" I asked. "Mr. Paul's got other duties," the deputy said. He looked at me as if to remind me that I was supposed to say Mr. before a white man's name. He stood there eyeing me until he felt that I had understood. "I brought you some good old gumbo," Miss Emma said to Jefferson. "How's it going, partner?" I said, and then I took my seat beside him. "All right," he said. "The radio still playing?" He nodded his head. "Good," I said. Miss Emma put rice in each pan, then she poured gumbo over the rice and in the pan until the pan was nearly full. Besides shrimps, she had put smoked sausage and chicken in the gumbo, and she had seasoned it well with green onions, filet, and black pepper. Gumbo was something you could always eat, even if you were not hungry. I started in, but I was the only one, and I soon realized why. "May we bow our heads," the minister said after I had put down my spoon. Jefferson's head had been bowed from the moment he sat down. I lowered my eyes. "Our Father, who art in heaven," Reverend Ambrose began. He went through the Lord's Prayer, but that was only for warming up. He really got down into praying. He asked God to come down to Bayonne, into the courthouse, into the jail, walk along the cell block, go into each cell, touch each heart. Come into this room and touch the hearts of those here who did not know him and the pardon of their sins. As he prayed, the minister would slump closer and closer to the table. Then he would jerk his head up and gaze at the ceiling. Miss Emma and my aunt responded with amen, amen, amen. But Jefferson was quiet, and so was I. Whether or not he was listening, I don't know. But all I was thinking about was the gumbo getting cold. Finally, Reverend Ambrose brought his prayer sermon to an end. begging God to bless the gift on the table, which was there to nourish our bodies so that we might do his bidding. Everyone responded with amen, except Jefferson. I started eating. The gumbo was warm, but not hot. "Ain't you going to eat, Jefferson?" Miss Emma said. "Ain't hungry." Miss Emma was not eating either, but the minister and my aunt and I were. I broke off a piece of bread from one of the loaves that Miss Emma had baked. I didn't look at her. I didn't want to see her face. "The children sent you some more pecans and peanuts," I said to Jefferson. "Did you eat the others I brought you?" "Some," he said. "The peanuts too?" "Few," he said, his head down. "I brought you that notebook and pencil," I said. "Do you remember what we talked about?" He nodded shortly. "Have you been thinking of questions to ask me?" He nodded again. "Do you want to ask me now?" He didn't say anything. I finished my pan of gumbo. "There's more there, Grant," Miss Emma said. "No, ma'am, that was good," I said, glancing at her. I didn't want to look at her too long. I knew what I would find in her face, and I didn't want to see it. "You want to walk?" I said to Jefferson. He moved on the bench without answering. You could hear the chains around his ankles as he swung his legs over the bench. Then he braced his cuffed hands against the table to push himself up. We started walking around the room. Miss Emma watched us. My aunt and the minister went on eating, but they did not seem to be enjoying their food. "Jefferson, I want us to be friends," I said. "Not only you and me, but I want you to be friends with your Nanan. I want you to be more than a godson to her. A godson obeys, but a friend, well, a friend would do anything to please a friend." We were passing by the table, so I lowered my voice. Jefferson shuffled along beside me, his cuffed hands hanging below his waist, his shoulders too close together, his head down. "A friend does a lot of little things," I went on. "It would mean so much to her if you would eat some of the gumbo." I stopped when we came to the corner of the room. He stopped too, his head still down. "Look at me, Jefferson, please," I said. He raised his head slowly. I smiled at him. "Will you be her friend? Will you eat some of the gumbo? Just a little bit? One spoonful?" He made a slight nod. I smiled at him again. "Jefferson," I said. We had started walking. "Do you know what a hero is, Jefferson?" "A hero is someone who does something for other people. He does something that other men don't and can't do. He is different from other men. He is above other men. No matter who those other men are, the hero, no matter who he is above them." I lowered my voice again until we had passed the table. "I could never be a hero. I teach, but I don't like teaching. I teach because it's the only thing that an educated black man can do in the South today. I don't like it. I hate it. I don't even like living here. I want to run away. I want to live for myself and for my woman and for nobody else." That is not a hero. A hero does for others. He would do anything for people he loves because he knows it would make their lives better. I am not that kind of person, but I want you to be. You could give something to her, to me, to those children in the quarter. You could give them something that I never could. They expect it from me, but not from you. The white people out there are saying you don't have it, that you're a hog, not a man. But I know they are wrong. You have the potentials we all have, no matter who we are. Those out there are no better than we are, Jefferson. They are worse. That's why they are always looking for a scapegoat, someone else to blame. I want you to show them the difference between what they think you are and what you can be. To them, you're nothing but another, no dignity, no heart, no love for your people. You can prove them wrong. You can do more than I can ever do. I have always done what they wanted me to do. Teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. Nothing else. Nothing about dignity. Nothing about identity. Nothing about loving and caring. They never thought we were capable. They never thought we were capable of learning these things. Teach those how to print their names and how to figure on their fingers. And I went along, but hating myself all the time for doing it. We were coming up to the table again, and the ones at the table were quiet and trying to hear what we were saying. I did not start talking again until we had passed them. Do you know what a myth is, Jefferson? I asked him. A myth is an old lie that people believe in. White people believe that they're better than anyone else on earth, and that's a myth. The last thing they ever want is to see a black man stand and think and show that common humanity that is in all of us. It would destroy their myth. They would no longer have justification for having made us slaves and keeping us in the condition we are in. As long as none of us stand, they're safe. They're safe with me. They're safe with Reverend Ambrose. I don't want them to feel safe with you anymore. I want you to chip away at that myth by standing. I want you, yes, you, to call them liars. I want you to show them that you are as much a man, more a man than they can ever be. That jury, you call them men? That judge, is he a man? The governor is no better. They play by the rules of that their forefathers created hundreds of years ago. Their forefathers said that we're only 3/5 human, and believe it to this day. Sheriff Guidry does too. He calls me professor, but he doesn't mean it. He calls Reverend Ambrose Reverend, but he doesn't respect him. When I showed him the notebook and pencil I brought for you, he grinned. Do you know why? He believes it was just a waste of time and money. What can a hog do with a pencil and paper? We stopped, his head down. Look at me, Jefferson, please, I said. He raised his head. He had been crying. He raised his cuffed hands to wiped one eye, then the other. I need you, I told him. I need you much more than you could ever need me. I need to know what to do with my life. I want to run away, but go where and do what? I am needed here, and I know it, but I feel all I'm doing here is choking myself. I need someone to tell me what to do. I need you to tell me, to show me. I'm no hero. I can just give something small. That's all I have to offer. It's the only way I can chip away at that myth. You can be bigger than anyone you have ever met. Please listen to me, because I would not lie to you now. I speak from my heart. You have the chance of being bigger than anyone who has ever lived on that plantation or come from this little town. You can do it if you try. You have seen how Mr. Farrell makes a slingshot handle. He starts with just a little piece of rough wood, any piece of scrap wood. Then he starts cutting and cutting and cutting, then shaving. Shaves it down clean and smooth till it's not what it was before, but something new and pretty. You know what I'm talking about because you've seen him do it. You had one that he made from a piece of scrap wood. Yes, I saw you with it. And it came from a piece of old wood that he found in the yard somewhere. And that's all we are, Jefferson, all of us on this earth, a piece of drifting wood until we, each one of us, individually, decide to become something else. I am still that piece of drifting wood, and those out there are no better, but you can be better, because we need you to be and want you to be. Me, your godmother, the children, and all the rest of them in the quarter. Do you understand what I'm saying to you, Jefferson? Do you? He looked at me, in great pain. He may not have understood, but something was touched, something deep down in him, because he was still crying. I cry not from reaching any conclusion by reasoning, but because lowly as I am still part of the whole. Is that what he was thinking as he looked at me crying? Come on, I said. Let's have some gumbo. And we went back to the table.